Welcome back to another episode of the Top of Off Cricket Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Henry, and as usual, I got with me, brethren them, Sam and Walter, and we talking everything West Indies cricket. Lots going on right now. A team preparing for their test matches against the South Africa A. The ladies are taking on England. Our men are taking on England also. And they happen to get a song thrashing at the hands of the Englishmen. And to put it mildly by saying we are disappointed. Would you agree, Walter?
Yes, we are. We didn't do well. We didn't do well, and we got a thrashing, and it seems like we always start slow. And the question is, why do we start slow? And is it a mental thing that we discussed? That's the and I'm thinking it has to be because our lines. We bowl. We won the toss, and we bowl, and we were all over the place. Right. And as you were saying earlier, Sam, in our discussion that they got the right lines, but they didn't do the right thing. So the question is, why do we start slow? Why do we always start slow?
It seems starting slow seems to be a habit, Sam. Where do you stand on that?
I mean, I've heard that narrative. I mean, everyone who provides commentary on West Indies cricket in recent days, have repeated that view. Yes, we start series slow, what have you. And especially in a time when there's so much cricket going on that our teams do not have enough time to play, a tour match here or there, If you go back to the 90s, you would have at least, 2 tour matches before you actually get into,
series properly.
The test matches or what have you, right? So I take that. But for me, with the English tour, I was happy that Cricket West Indies had the foresight, and I'm assuming here that this was deliberately done, to say, look, let us start the campaign, let's say the North Sea campaign, by playing in Ireland first, playing a weaker team than England, and then jumping across the pond and taking on the English. I take it, yes, the English is a much stronger team. I take it too that the English really had to come out swinging, because remember, they have been struggling in recent times when you look at their ODI returns in recent months or what have you.
I think so. We
were always going to be facing a lot of heat. But notwithstanding all of those things, I am of the view that something was off mentally in England, because in a sense we came up a high from Ireland. Yes, it was a much weaker team. You played on one ground, the ground is smaller, what have you. But the point is, you had a mental boost, I would say. And you go to England and something went awry on that morning, right? Because Jayden Seales has been in England for a few months playing county cricket. You see? So one would say that, okay, he's acclimatized, and if anything, he would be the person to, pull in Matthew Ford and say, hey, look, try this, do that, what have you. And then, of course, the captain, wicket keeper, should he have done more to say, look, guys, I know you're under pressure, we're dealing with the wind, but here is what you need to do. Because here's the thing, yes, it was windy early on, but you then have to adjust for that. You have to find a way to adjust to the windy conditions and use it to your advantage. I'll stop with that.
Sammy,
yeah.
I'll jump in here. And I know Kevy had to make his point. Kevy was our captain in high school. Kevy gives me tight feel, a third man, two slips, a gully, two slips, a gully, cover, extra cover, long off. Where am I supposed to be bowling?
Your lines have got to be straighter. Your lines have got to be...
And I gotta be outside the off stump. I gotta be
Exactly.
fuller. I can't be short. So I don't. If you're playing cricket, you know, and I know in this modern game, they have plans. They go into cricket with plans.
When I think back to that match, a part of me wished Kemar Roach was in the lineup. I know this is not his thing anymore, right? Because I do feel, based on what we know of him as a thinking bowler, I do think he would have managed those conditions well. And of course, he's a guy who's done much in county cricket and what have you. Because when you're having an issue like this, and you guys obviously have a more technical understanding of cricket than I have, yeah? So you can tell me if I'm off here. But one of the things I would think you want to do is forget about pace, forget about clocking, whatever, and focus now on line and length.
So I will start here. What is the name of this show? What is the name of this podcast? Pun intended.
Top of off.
Right? Pun intended.
Top of off.
The next question I'm going to ask, right? What line and length or lengths did the English bowl?
Top of off.
Right? They went hard length, top of off. Pretty much straight. I'm watching Jaden Seals. I'm watching Matthew Ford. Alzari had the right idea. It wasn't until his last couple of overs that he took some tap, right? And I think when he picked up the wicket of, I think it was Jason Smith, if I'm not mistaken, that was off of a slow ball. And here is where we fail to make the adjustment, right? You're going pace on all the time, and you're getting tap, tap, tap. And at no point did you think to yourself, okay, my slow ball can be my surprise ball. Alzari did it, and it worked. Jaden Seals came back later on in his spell and tried it. Guess what happened? It worked. Other than the slower ball, we needed to be straighter, hard length, test match length. That's what that pitch required. It needed to be a test match length, top of off, force the English to do something. It was like a buffet. That's what it was like. I'm sure each and every one of the English batsmen were sitting in the pavilion going, I hope Harry Brook can get outside, can get in there and get some. I hope Jason Smith can get outside and get it. Everybody wanted a piece of us. You could see it. Yeah, Walter.
I'm going to ask you another question. Kevy, as a man that play cricket, if you had to face one West Indian bowler in the history of West Indies cricket who played Test cricket, who won cricket, and you say, you know what, I want to face this one person because I know I can bat 2 overs and he's not getting me out. Who is that person?
I might not know who you're
given the type of Tino Bess.
Well,
why? No, let me tell you why. Because he bowls short, and that's what they were doing. You can't get people out with short bowling all the time.
They were short, they were wide, they were on the legs. So that in itself gave Shea Hope a problem. Because Shea Hope sets a field for you, or you set your field, you come and you tell Shea Hope, hey, look, this is what I want. Because when you're a bowler, you get to tell the captain what you want, ideally, right? Unless the captain has something else and he says, look, I need you to bowl to this, right? But more often than not, you will see the bowler standing there, hey, and they're like a traffic police. Because this is what I'm trying to do. I've communicated it with the captain. This is what we're trying to achieve. The two of us have agreed on it, and we're going to work from there. Now, when I give you your feel, and you go bowl something that contradicts that, you're down the leg side, you're short, you're wide, you're short and wide. So now you're not asking any questions of the batsman. None of the English batsmen's technique were tested, especially in the early goings. You're supposed to test their technique. That is what what's his name, Saki Mahmood did. That is why Justin Graves lost his wicket. His technique was tested. Look at the shot that he played. He didn't know if he wanted to drive the ball along the ground or he wanted to hit the ball over the top. And in the end, he did neither. The only batsman there that can say, I got a good ball today, was Brandon King. The best of batsmen would have gotten out to that delivery from Bryden Cars. My problem is there's a mentality problem that we're struggling with, especially when we go on tour. Ireland should have been viewed as the perfect warm-up. We had 3 warm-up matches against Ireland. You understand? To get the cobwebs out. They should have been looked at as a 6-match one-day series. Okay, your first 3, you get the cobwebs out. Now you're over in England and you're firing on all cylinders. Very disappointed with Jayden Seales. You've been in England for the better part of 3 months. Better part of 3 months.
You know the lines to bowl in England.
You know the lines to bowl. And the lines to bowl in England have always been the basic things. Top of off.
Pun intended.
Unintended. You understand me? Top of off.
Fellas, I was listening to Jarb Kimber, a few of his shows. And he was talking about the West Indian bowling, the great period when we had those bowlers from the 70s, 80s, and the early 90s. And most people are of the opinion, who are not avid cricket followers, that those fellas bowl short. They hardly did bowl short. Of course, some of them were unique and they had steep bunks, like the Garners of the world and Courtney Ambrose, Sammy's favorite. But what they did was bowl on that top of off. I remember same Courtney Ambrose saying he saw Malcolm was bowling, the ball was swinging. I can't remember who he was bowling to, and the ball was swinging away, and he's swinging away. He had it there. So he was like, how are you going to get him out? How you think I'll get him out? He said, slip. The man said, no, I'm a LBWR bowl him. And that's the thing, is like that there is that he's setting him up and he sees the ball is swinging away, he's gonna get it straight to one. And you know what? I was looking bare eyes and I text the fellows people. And I realized that Harry Brook has a problem. Harry Brook, if you bowl a straight that straight line to the body, he tends to flick. But whenever he flicks, I notice he's been flicking a lot in the ear. Like whenever he turns it, it goes in the ear. Right? Especially if you're bowling at 80-something miles per hour. We wasn't doing it to the Matthew Ford, but Seals and them. So I realized that that's a flaw, and that if that's not tightened up, that'll be people take advantage of that. But my point is, Kevy and Sammy, viewers, England and a lot of the teams that are around the world are not, even though our first class season is not the best, Even though we don't get the best trainings, we don't get everything. A lot of those players are not much better than us. West Indies players, these players, our problem is from male to female, is what Kevi said. We have a mental problem. Reading the game, understanding the situation we're in, that has been the bane of West Indies cricket for the last 25 to 30 years.
But fellas, I haven't heard anyone suggest this, but I'm wondering if there's some off the field thing that happened before that game. Because I mean, like I said, we came out from Ireland, I think, after the debacle of that first ODI. The Friday match, yes, rain. And then Sunday we came on strong. You're on a high. Right?
Sammy, Walter.
So I'm wondering. And before you go, Kevin, Evan Lewis, what was the deal? Was he ill? I can't recall hearing anything though.
They did say Evan wasn't feeling well. I think something came up on that morning. I think it was at the last moment Joel Andrew was included in the lineup, right? I think up until the morning of the match, Evan was playing. Now, like we spoke about...
Did they go party the night before or something? Why sick?
That's why
I don't know.
This is exactly...
Something.
Fellas, I'm literally Googling if there's a West Indian party CT going on, vibe going on in Birmingham. Anyways, Kevin was saying something.
Anyways, we are, like I said before, we are notorious for starting slowly. Even Sammy mentioned it. This is a problem. It's an actual problem. You understand? And we've got to figure it out. Because if you want to qualify directly for the World Cup, the 2027 World Cup, this cannot continue. You understand? So now we're at a point where we're playing catch up. And that's why when I refer to the mentality, sometimes, a lot of times you hear people like Courtney Ambrose or Michael Atherton, pick a commentator, Matthew Hayden, and they often talk about Shane Warne, the late great Shane Warne. They often talk about getting it right, the attitude, the mentality from ball one. There are no warm-ups. You understand? We have got to get out of this warm-ups mentality. It seems like we every time we go on tour, and we could just move across the channel from Ireland to England, and we back in a warm-up mentality. It's like we have to press the reset button, and we got to get everything going again. You just played a cricket match just a couple of days ago. You should be in tune. You should be in rhythm. You understand? Perfect warm-up. 3 matches. Yes, you lost one of them. You got good batting practice in the second one. Even better batting practice and bowling practice in the third one. So you should be coming over firing on all cylinders. Now you reverted to the first game in Ireland, both bowling and batting. So for me, it's a mentality thing. And Darren Sammy, Cricket West Indies, because every time we go on tour, this is exactly what happens. This is the template of West Indies. Whether it's test match cricket or one-day cricket or T20 cricket, we are notorious for starting slow. I don't know if there's a psychologist attached to the West Indies team, because something needs to happen. There's some help that these young men need. It's bigger than what's taking place on the field. You understand? For me, it's what's going on between the two ears. What is going on between there? Why is it so hard for us to get switched on? Why? Why is it so hard for us to get switched on?
I think that you're right. And we honestly need, fellas, to change that the culture so it could filter down right to the first and second division high school cricket in the Caribbean. We need to, because there's this culture of excitement and a culture of us playing expansive. But if we change aspect, it is going to filter down because they're going to see, and the guys model, they will model that, they will want to be like that. And so we need that needs to be discussed. We have the social media. They have multiple podcasts of podcasters. There's so many things that can be used. You could have conversations. You could start talking about it. It must be so whenever players go back to their clubs, let it be part of the coaching system. We need that needs to happen. And this has been going on for far too long. There is a mental, and I know as a historian, as a social scientist, and I know that we have these issues in the Caribbean, and it's a mental thing, and we have a lot going on. And we have post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Walter, hold on,
Yeah,
hold on a minute. I don't like to reference the era of Viv Richards and Clive Lloyd and them when
yeah.
it comes to West Indies being switched on, right? Because sometimes I feel like if it's apples and oranges. But how is it for our glory years from let me say from about 1975 to about 1995, when West Indies were exceptionally good, right? How is it we were able to overcome the obstacles on tour, going in people, as my brother, I get the older brother say, you go in people kitchen and you broke up their ears. You understand? We used to go in people country and beat them up. That is why when you see teams beat West Indies, it is still everybody want piece of us to this day, even if we are not at the levels that we used to be. So what is the difference between
That's
then
the answer,
and
Kevin.
now?
That's the answer. The answer is that we were coming out of that colonial period. We were in a period where we saw racism in our communities, we saw racism in our country. If you listen to Viv say, I love to see people chase off the balls I hit. So there was, and in that period we had the independence movement. It seems that has from our generation and beyond, it's turned down. It's turned down. We're distracted. We are more Americanized in our thinking and in terms of what we want. It's like the get rich. It's that more North American perspective and ideologies that we have in terms of going to where we want because of what goes on in our society. So and the music, everything is is different. This is a study. I think it's turned on that fire in Babylon. It's burned. It's burned out. That's what we need. We need the fire to be rekindled.
Well, Sammy, you think it's a matter of or some of the players are just entitled in terms of that hunger is not there?
Guys, look, this narrative about the Clive Lloyds and the Viv Richards and the whole pride of the Caribbean civilization, as Comrade Ralph would say, right? I'm not going to discount those things. In fact, West Indian cricket is actually a metaphor for the economic, if you want to say economic underdevelopment of West Indies cricket. I don't want to go into that thesis, something I've been thinking about in recent time. And it's not only about West Indies cricket and West Indies economic development. We can also look at Indian cricket and Indian economic development, right? If you look at what's happening in the UK, about 2 decades now, Land Rover was bought over by Tata. As an example, right? Sunak was Prime Minister just recently. I'm saying all of this to say that the dominance we see with the Indians is not only on the cricket field. We see it in terms of economic development. We see it in terms of what the Indian diaspora is doing in the UK, right? So it's something we can get into that, into what was happening in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and what we see now. But here is the deeper point I want to make. International cricket has moved on, right? And when I say moved on, I'm speaking about the different things that international teams are doing, right? Whether it's about the use of science, right? Whether it's in terms of the nutrition, in terms of how players train, what have you, there's a lot that goes into the game, right? Because you have to get that little edge. You see, that little edge. Kevi, very often you share videos of little boys in India, boys younger than 10, and the different things that they're doing, you know, they don't even have fancy equipment a lot of times, but just some basic things. And they focus, all they're doing all day is just playing a cover drive. All day they're doing that. Or they're doing that front foot defense or what have you. They're just doing that all the time. Those little things. In the Caribbean, we do not have those things. So if we go back to the Clive Lloyds and the Viv Richards and what have you, not to take away from what they were doing, you know, but at that time, one can say that our cricket was on par with what was happening in other spaces in terms of the training and what have you, right? We all remember the Dennis Wade story with Kerry Packer, and they said, okay, and you talk to cricketers, West Indian cricketers, 80s, early 90s, Dennis Wade was a god, right? But other cricketing nations have moved on. They have used, as we say, you know, in economics, technological advancement, the process of preparing for cricket. We have not progressed.
I have heard Dwayne Bravo talk on this, right? In terms of how we prepare our teams. Bravo has spoken about this, the scientific approach that the other teams are using, right? West Indies, we are there right now. You notice things like they're getting analysts and all these kinds of people trained up so they can be attached to the team, to the various territorial teams and stuff of that nature. But I'll refer back to what you said about when Clive Lloyd and Viv Richards and Andy Roberts and Michael Holding and them were playing, right? The advantage that West Indian cricketers had was the natural athleticism.
Yeah.
As compared to when you see West Indian players running and able to move in certain ways or execute certain shots. Say again?
Whispering death. Whispering death.
Michael Holding, whispering death. And when you compare our movements with the English and the Australians and the Pakistanis and it was night and day because athleticism comes naturally to us, right? So what did the Australians and England and New Zealand and them started doing? Okay, they approached it from a scientific standpoint. How do we maximize what we have so that we can get on par and even better than the West Indians?
Yeah.
We seem to think that we could always outrun everybody. And that is where, that's why when you remember a few months ago, I said, I don't think for about 30 years or even longer, Cricket West Indies and the territorial boards had a plan to develop West Indies cricket. And you've seen it manifesting today. Now, we're not struggling physically, we're struggling with our mentality, how we approach games, how we adjust in games. You understand? When you, I don't know if I shared the video with y'all with Virat Kohli a couple of days ago. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And Virat Kohli said, when I'm out there batting, I don't get caught up in this whole thing of I need to score at this run rate. Right? What I do is I make sure if the bowling is good, I keep rotating the strike. In essence, that's what he was saying. In summary, that's what he was saying. I keep rotating the strike. If the bowling is good, I respect it. Right? I know that I'm going to get a bad ball or two. And I just play. I play the match conditions. I play the situations. Yes, is yesterday that we played that game and lost terribly?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Now, England scored 400 runs, right? I knew our chances of winning that game were slim to none. We were batted out of the game. Here was a chance where West Indies could have played as though they were chasing 320, between 320 and 350. So even if you can't win the game, you don't get embarrassed. We were embarrassed yesterday. What really ticked me off was, okay, you realize you're 17 for 2, 30 something for 3, 40 something, or whatever it is for 4. And everybody kept playing the same way, trying to chase this score. No one put their hands up and said, you know what? I'm going to set out my style. I'm going to be selfish here and make a score for myself. This was a perfect opportunity. If a player wanted to be selfish, this was a perfect opportunity. Whether it was a Shea Hope, a Joel Andrew, a Amir Jangu, a Roston Chase, this was the perfect opportunity to get very selfish and just bat for the duration of the time that you're there. If you came in the 20th over, try to bat until the 50th over. And I can guarantee you, the score that West Indies had would have been a whole lot more respectable than what we ended up with.
162.
Yeah. When Jaden Seals, number 11, is the top scorer. Justin Graves should have been saying, I gave away, was that 70 runs or whatever? He should have been saying to himself, I got to make close to that.
Yeah, 68 runs.
Yeah. Matthew Ford should have been saying to himself, I gave away 80-odd runs.
88. Yeah.
I need to score a half century.
You know, Kevin, it's interesting you mentioned that because when we look at the 50 over, the South Africa A, West Indies A, I was upset with some commentators when South Africa A put on that, 300 odd. And a well-respected regional commentator, I don't need to call him, just saying, oh, you know, we have to go after this from ball one. And I'm saying, no, why we have to go after it from ball one?
No.
Keep wickets in hand. You keep wickets in hand, good things can happen. And here's the other thing too. When it comes to that 50 over competition, the idea was not to win the matches.
No.
The idea is for individual players, in my view, to signal to Cricket West Indies that, listen,
I'm ready.
You give me a chance to play in this A team, and this is what I got against the South Africans. We have a captain at an ace. What has Athenaeus done in the 50 over?
What is disappointing about Athenaeus is, Walter, you're saying it there, it's a mentality. He is the senior most player in that squad. Almost 20 test matches, quite a number of ODIs, some amount of T20 cricket. Played on A teams before. Bangladesh, South Africa. You understand? And you come out here when you should be providing leadership for all these young men, because a lot of the players would not have played A-team cricket before.
Right.
And you should have been setting the standard or being the standard of how it should be done. And I'm watching that Athenaeus play bat up and catch.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is our number 3, number 4 test batsman at the moment, unless he gets dropped in the series coming.
I don't think he plays against Australia.
I don't have him in my squad. I don't have him in my squad. Because personally, I think he has a lot of work to do. He needs to go back to the drawing board and figure out how he wants to approach his game. Athenaeus' problem is an approach problem. It's a mentality problem.
But Kevin, I would have him in the squad. We are in the West Indies. We don't have to fly an extra man out down under or what have you. We're playing in the West Indies. Athenaeus is in the squad. He's in the mix-up, but he's not in the 11. Can't be in the 11. I'm sorry.
You're a better man than me. I'll tell you that much. You're a better man than me.
Sammy, I'll give him a job just for him to understand that I'll have a conversation, brother. The reason why you're getting dropped on the communication, that's what they don't happen in the crib. But if I were doing it, I would say, you know what, brother, the reason why I'm dropping him, not even playing you in this squad, is because you need to work. We need to work on
the approach, the mentality. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is though, is that we're saying this, but it's like, you know, when we're smart, people used to say, go and study a book. And a lot of times people never told children exactly how to study, how to approach, what to do. So that's the thing, is that we need to start, as a West Indian, as a cricketing nation, we need to start to have conversations and show these young men how the approach you need, right? And to have game awareness. It's important.
Walter,
yeah.
We are living in this is 2025.
Yeah.
I honestly think that is happening, especially under this Darren Sammy leadership.
Okay, I can't argue against that.
You understand? I honestly, what I think it is a lack of application. That is what I think it is. It's a lack of application. Right now, in this era that we're living in, I don't think you need to tell any sportsman about mindset. Oftentimes, when you click through a lot of them and you go on the Instagram or the Facebook or whatever, or the Twitter or whatever, they're always talking about mindset. Always talking about mindset. Listen to when they give interviews, they're talking about mindset.
But do they truly understand what it means?
Okay. Listen. A lot of people are about punchlines and not core beliefs. You understand? They say things because it is fashionable. It's the trendy thing. We live in an era right now where everybody's talking about mindset. But do everybody want to really do the things required for that mindset to be in place? That's the question. My thing is, it's a lack of application. It was the same thing with Joshua Da Silva. That's why last year I called for Joshua Da Silva and Andre Coley to be brave and drop Joshua Da Silva, because his mindset, his mentality, his approach was lacking to what we needed at the international level. And you cannot have that. Too often, Athenaeus approaches the game when he feels like, okay, the bowling is a bit tough, he gets cavalier. When it requires him to just stick around, just tough it out. Anyways, fellas, ain't no more, ain't no more need to beat this or flog this dead horse, right? We hope we get a new filly come Sunday, ready to go, ready to go. I hope England beat the cobwebs out. The cobwebs have been beaten out, right? It seemed like we gathered some cobwebs when we traversed the channel, and we were trying to fight out to them. So I hope that what happened yesterday, what transpired at Edgbaston was England beating the cobwebs off a week. So Sunday, because like I said, 2-1, right?
You said 2-1, but remember, we got beat by 10 Englishmen and a Bajan.
You're right. 10 Englishmen and a Bajan. You're right. All right, fellas, we gonna catch up later. It was a good one. Good having you guys online tonight. We're gonna catch up later on that note. 10 Englishmen and a Bajan.